Okay, here we are. Once again, podcast number...
6.
Is it 6?
Yeah.
Blimey, feels like a lot more.
Does that say you don't like spending time with me?
No, not at all. Or is it? No, it's not. No. It's very hot today, it's very hot, it's 30 degrees.
And we can't have the fan on because unfortunately people need to hear the podcast.
Okay, I suppose so. Is it noisy?
Well, I have a feeling it might be, and I don't fancy re-recording it if the fan is going to be an issue.
Okay, well let's leave it off then.
Yeah, let's just
and let's
sweat.
Let's stop this professional, slick, smooth introduction, shall we? And get on with
Yeah, no, I think that's our problem. Too professional.
Yeah, too professional. That's it. Right, okay. Reminder: you've got a deep dive into Parasite this week.
Yeah.
6 trivia questions with the answers at the end. So if you want to know the answers, you've got to wait till the end. So about 30 minutes from now, and we'll have a look at what was on this week and what's coming up next week on TV and film. But for now, I think we'll kick off as usual with my first 2 quiz questions. And Jenny, you have no idea what these are, right? Do you, these
No,
questions?
I never see them in advance.
Right, so you're under pressure now. So this is a tough one. Okay. Question 1. It's a serious question. This one, so serious face on, game face on.
Yeah.
What was the name of Shrek's wife?
Oh.
Don't answer it.
No.
It's a question for people, the listeners. Okay. Question 2. In a similar vein, what's the name of Sherlock's brother in Sherlock? Okay, there are your first 2 questions. Answers at the end. So, right, okay. Okay then, Jenny, what have you been watching this week?
This week,
This week.
as well as Life on Mars, which I'm still watching. I know, it's been a while.
You're making that last, aren't you?
I really am. They are long episodes, it's BBC, so they are nearly an hour, and you do have to concentrate. It's not something I can watch just while I'm getting ready, because you lose the whole story.
No, multitasking and all that.
Nah, I can't do that at the best of times. So, we watched the finale of the current season of Killing Eve, which overall I actually really, really liked. We've said before about Killing Eve, the first series we were desperate to watch it, and the fact that the finale's been out so long and we've made it last kind of implies we weren't as into it this time round. But what I thought was good about the finale really was I just liked the fact that it tied up loose ends. So it really bothers me that they're thinking of doing a season 4. I now think that's completely unnecessary. They could just leave it there and it would be done, and I'd be kind of satisfied with where every character ended up. But I still love it. It's still so dark and funny in all these unsuspecting places, which is the sort of thing we like. I mean, do you kind of feel the same about Killing Eve in terms of that finale?
I don't know, I haven't thought that much about it, to be fair. I enjoyed it. It was alright, it was decent. It wasn't as good as the previous 2 seasons. But it took too long to get them to on screen together, in my opinion. But
yeah, I think that's a fair point.
There was a lot of wanton violence in it as well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's enjoyable. It's fun. I'm looking forward to another season because it will be, something enjoyable.
Yeah, it's still quality TV, I suppose. But I'm interested to see what they do season 4. So.
What else you watched?
Other than that, this week we finished The Matrix. I mentioned it last week, but we hadn't quite finished the 3rd film. I'm still lost. I think it was the best film out of the trilogy, and I said it at the time, and you said no, you think the first one's the best film. And I thought I'd feel like that, but actually I found the 3rd film, there was something about it I just liked. Am I desperate to see the 4th one? No. Do I care that it's coming out in 2022? Not really. Will I watch it just to round it off? Yeah, probably.
Well, I'm very interested to see what they do with it.
They've waited, how long is it? 19 years? By the time it comes out, yeah. And Keanu Reeves is back in it. There's some characters returning and you just think, wow, how different that's going to be. So, yeah, from me, that's pretty much what I've watched. What about you?
I'm just continuing Schitt's Creek.
You just love saying it.
Yeah, Schitt's Creek. I don't think I'll ever.
You'll be watching it for the next 10 years, yeah, just to keep saying it.
What am I doing this for the next 10 years?
Crikey. I mean, I hadn't really thought that far, but if we're still here in 10 years, either it's gone horribly, horribly wrong.
Have you got that pot of pills for a knife? No? What?
Well,
nothing?
Anyway.
And White Collar.
Oh, yes.
White Collar. But no, that's it with me, really. Right, okay, 2 more questions. Question 3 and 4. Question 3, but don't shout out the answer, Jen.
Okay. Which
film is the line, "I see dead people" from? Which, she's nodding, she's like, it's an easy question. Don't insult my intelligence, as if to say. So which film is the line, "I see dead people" from? So if you don't know the answer to that, Jenny has insulted your intelligence. But the answer is at the end. Question 4, where was Inspector Morse set? Where was Inspector Morse set? Well, she's putting a face at that one, or a pout, I'm not sure which. Right, okay, the answers for those 2 at the end. Okay, so for this week's deep dive, we're getting more modern, more up to date.
Yeah.
We're catching up with ourselves. And you decided that we would do a deep dive into Parasite.
Yep. I thought it was time.
The 2019 Oscar for Best Picture.
Yeah. Yes. First international film to win Best Picture.
So why Parasite?
Partly because it won Best Picture, so I was intrigued as to why it won Best Picture, what made it stand out.
So you hadn't seen it before?
No.
So actually the real reason is because it was an excuse to watch it.
I mean, yeah.
It forced you to watch it.
Yeah. When I saw the trailer for it in cinemas, I remember saying, I think I was with you, and I think I remember saying like, "Oh, that looks really good," just because I do really like foreign language films, and particularly I like the kind of Japanese, Korean films, because it's classified as a bit of a horror, and I think they do horror really, really well. On that side of the world, there's just some really good films that have come out of there, so I was quite interested to see it anyway. But then it won Best Picture, and so I was really careful to avoid reading anything about it, so I really went into it with very minimal knowledge, and actually the storyline completely surprised me because it wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I wouldn't classify it as horror, would you?
No. I mean, I barely classify it as a thriller. There are certain points where, yes, your heart's might start racing, but I was never on the edge of my seat with it, which was more what I expected. It is kind of classified as like a comedy thriller. There's definitely the funny moments in there, and I think I see it maybe even more as a comedy than a thriller. But we'll talk about that when we get into the storyline.
Okay, well, why don't you?
Okay then. So the film focuses on a family it's all in South Korea, and it focuses on the family who are very poor. They live in what's called like a semi-basement. You can see the street from the windows, and it's all very, very cramped. And they don't live luxurious lives at all. They're very much living on top of each other. You've got parents, and you've got a teenage boy and a teenage girl. Never really quite sure how old they actually are. But the family together, they come up with a plan after the boy of the family, his friend, invites him to replace him as an English tutor for a rich family, the Park family, who live in a beautiful house set out away from everyone else. And once the son infiltrates the family and becomes a tutor with the best meaning in the world, just earning some extra money because the family are so poor, he realizes that actually he can use the rich family's kind of vulnerability in the fact that they need help from people of the lower classes to bring in his entire family as help, and basically kind of almost live the life that they want to live through the Park family, while earning a lot of money and putting all the money together so that they can improve their own lives. That's their plan anyway.
Yeah, there's not a malice behind their intention. There's
no.
There's a little bit of forgery and kind of massaging the truth to get their jobs, but they all do their jobs. The mother does the housekeeping, the dad does the driving, the daughter does tutoring, and so does the son.
Yeah.
So they're prepared to work.
Yeah,
just
it's true.
Haven't had the opportunity.
No, and they do go about getting rid of the existing staff so that they can secure these jobs. But they're just sick of being poor. At the beginning of the film, they're shown to be they have a job of folding pizza boxes, and they get complaints from one of the people at the company that it's not done properly, and it's such a tedious job. They're just tired of doing these jobs and getting barely any money for it.
No escape, cycle.
Yeah, exactly. They're completely stuck. So they see the park house, they see the family, and once they are in, they realise the kind of life that they could be living, and that plan is just to get as much money as they can out of the family, because I think the friend who has gone to university and given the son kind of his place, he's looking to return. So they've got a time period where they think, right, we can actually use this family, get our money, and go. But it doesn't quite turn out like that.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Well, I know nothing about the director or any of the cast at all. Up on my career.
There's not a lot for me to tell you. So they are all South Korean actors, so where you would know them from is other South Korean films. The director Bong Joon-ho, he directed a film previously in 2013 called Snowpiercer, which apparently did quite well. It has crossed over. It has crossed over to this side of the world. And the father of the family, Song Kang-ho, he played a role in Snowpiercer as well. So he's pretty well known in South Korea. The rest of them have had fairly minor roles. So this film is their big breakthrough. So is there anything else you really want to know about the director at this point?
Why do you think Hollywood picked it up then? I'm sure there's been plenty of other South Korean films for it. Why this one? Why is this one gaining traction in Hollywood?
I really don't know. I think because the premise of the film, it's supposed to focus on life in South Korea and that class divide, which I think we see in other countries. It's the fact that the Park family, they don't associate with anyone from the lower classes. They have their life, they have money, but they require help, and that comes from these lower classes. And maybe that's something that we, as even a Western audience, can reflect on, that real class divide. Like people who, make minimal wage don't often get to go to these big houses and experience that sort of lifestyle. But other than that, I really don't know why it was picked up and why it's done so well.
And a minority of people, tiny percentage of people, are wealthy enough to afford these places, whereas the rest of us, the vast majority, scrabbling by week to week, month to month.
Yep.
And so maybe it's a story that is familiar globally, and that was the interesting. I mean, it is funny in places, it is dark in other places, it's shocking in other places. It is a bloody good story.
Yeah.
At the heart of it, very well told, very well shot as well.
Yeah, there's an element of truth in the story as well. The director said that when he was in his 20s, he actually worked as a tutor for a wealthy family, and it got him thinking about, well, he would never have been into a house like that or met those people if it wasn't for the service that he was offering. And that's partly where the title of the film comes from. He had to fight to get the film named Parasite, because initially people think Parasite is to do with the lower classes being a parasite, the way that they infiltrate the rich house, the way they're creeping around and their secrecy. And the marketing team immediately thought, oh, you can't have that as a slur towards the lower classes, that's not fair. But he said equally you can look at the rich as being a parasite as well, because they're parasites in terms of labour. When they force out the original housekeeper, and while the family are waiting for a new one, the mother of the household is shown, she can't even cook properly, she can't unload a dishwasher, she can't keep on top of these everyday chores. And so he's saying, actually maybe everyone is a parasite in their own way. I think that's quite interesting.
It's capitalist society. It's the rich, traditionally the factory owners who were living in their big old houses, condescending, looking down, highly dismissive of the lower classes, despite the fact that they were wholly dependent upon the lower classes for the means of their wealth in the first place, the workers.
Yeah.
So who is the parasitic family?
Yeah.
Isn't the obvious one necessarily.
No, and the Park family, who are the rich family, it's quite interesting the way their characters are portrayed, because I was never really sure whether to like the family or not. They are not a family you're meant to dislike entirely, and you're not meant to root for the Kim family to get rid of them in any way, but there are certain questionable elements. Like I think it's towards the end of the film, the mother throws an impromptu birthday party for her son, and so she wants to invite the teenage daughter who's been tutoring him in kind of art and art therapy fraudulently this whole time. And she even says to her, like, oh, think of it as one of your working days, I'll just pay you, like I'll just pay you to come, I'll pay you to be there at my son's birthday party. And it's that kind of carelessness of just throwing that money around, not really thinking about it, thinking that this girl will do it because she obviously needs the money, so why not?
Yeah, I don't know, if I had the money I might do the same thing, rather than expect someone to turn up free, offer them the money.
Buy your friendships and relationships, yeah.
I thought something else I was going to say there. Oh yeah, that was it. About liking the Park family, yeah. One interesting thing I noticed that I didn't like about them, but I thought was quite amusing and quite an interesting observation from the director, was when they kept referencing or referring to the smell of, I don't know,
Mr. Kim, the driver, the father of the poor household.
Yeah, well, not just him, but because the little boy said they all smell the same.
Yeah.
And I thought, is that the smell of poverty?
Oh yeah, I never thought that.
And that's that was an interesting kind of factor, and it grew as the film progressed. And Mr. Kim and Mr. Park, so Mr. Kim the driver and Mr. Park the rich executive, they get on quite well, but there is a tension between them. And I think that manifests itself when Mr. Kim overhears Mr. Park talk about his smell. And I think that plants a seed that blossoms into, quite an interesting explosion of colour.
Yeah. It's the realisation that you can work for a family like that and you could be the most reliable person and they can rely on you for everything, but you will never quite be a part of that family.
How quickly did they get rid of the old housekeeper? Because they thought she had TB.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And that she'd been there, she came with the house.
Yeah.
So they relied on her for everything, cooking everything, and they learned that she was ill. And they didn't offer to help her.
No, just kicked her out.
They got rid of her.
That same evening, yeah.
So that's quite callous.
Yeah.
But karma, I'll leave that there.
Yeah. It is quite amusing the way that the Kim family, the poor family, infiltrate the house of the Park family. Like they find out everything they need to know to get rid of the other staff.
It's quite mischievous,
yeah,
but it's also quite clever.
Yeah. So, for example, to get rid of the driver, the girl, the teenage girl, Ki Jung, she actually removes her underwear in the car when she's being driven home by the driver.
She's an older teenager. Like she could be
yeah,
20,
I don't know how old she is. I keep referring to her as a teenager, but she's probably older.
Because should
we say early 20s?
She couldn't get into art college.
Oh, and she drinks actually. So she's probably in her early 20s. So again, these 20-year-olds who are living at home, they have aspirations to go to university and things like that, but it hasn't happened. Yeah, they're bright. It's not.
That's the real commentary of the film. It's how it's almost impossible to escape poverty, and I think that's the big appeal that audiences around the world will recognise that.
Yeah.
And they are bright, they are clever, but they haven't got the opportunities afforded to others because they're poor. They have to earn money. I remember once upon a time when I used to teach, first in a poor part of London, and a first parents' evening, and a mother of a 15-year-old girl came in and started shouting and screaming at me straight away, saying, how dare I fill her daughter's head with ideas of college and university. As soon as she leaves here, she's getting a job and helping me bring up her two sisters. And that was a real shock to me. And I thought, well, that poor kid at 15, that's her life mapped out for her. She's got no opportunity, and I don't blame the mother. That's the mother's trapped as much as the daughter's going to be trapped, and the cycle repeats.
Yeah.
And I think so the girl here, she's a talented artist. The boy here is very clever, very wise, so to the extent that his friend got him to do the English tutoring for the rich family. Didn't get one of his university mates, he got this guy because he knew he was clever, brighter than any of his mates.
Yeah. I've lost track of what I was talking about.
I'm sure it was...
It's probably about the story. Oh, it was how they got rid of everyone. So the girl takes the opportunity to remove her underwear in the car, hides it under the seat so that the family think that, the driver's been...
Well, the dad will find it because he sits in the back seat.
Yeah, thinking that the driver will be fired for being inappropriate, which of course he then is. And casually in conversation, the girl brings up, oh, if you're looking for a driver, my family used to have a great driver. And she, they gradually bring all of the family members in. And that's the fun of it. It's quite fun watching the family infiltrate, but there is a darker side to the film which is revealed a bit later on.
Yeah, and I've not seen another film like it.
No.
So it's quite, original in terms of films that I've seen, and I've not seen all of the films.
Yeah, it's not a film that relies a lot on a lot of location changes. It focuses on the houses, the park house itself. The house is constructed in such a way that the director said each family has their own space and they think they know the house. It's quite open plan and light, but there's so much secrecy in that house as well, and that reflects the way the families are living, and that they're not always open and honest with each other. Just because the Park family have a lot of money, they're not necessarily this complete happy family that they might be considering that they have all this money. Like the daughter's quite withdrawn and doesn't really communicate with her parents.
The mother's emotionally unstable.
Yeah, the university friend Min, who gives the son the job, refers to her as a bit simple, like she's naive. And she is. She's got this great life with all this money. Her husband works for a tech company. That's how he makes his money. And she's at home looking after the kids, but she doesn't actually do much because she's got help. They do everything for her. She just lives her life. So the idea of throwing an impromptu birthday party is something that's really pleasing to her because she can organise the event with minimal effort on her part. I don't know how far we want to go into the story because there is a dark twist to it.
I'd leave it.
It is good though. I do really like it.
There's a fair amount of people who've still not watched it.
Yeah, since it is so recent. Yeah, I'd recommend it. I think it's well worth a watch because it is so different to everything that I've personally seen before, and it is such a good commentary on life, not just in South Korea but in general.
What would you give it out of 5? Why are you always surprised every week?
No. I was gonna look at my notes and talk about things, but
you've got more things to say.
Just some quick little trivia things that I thought would be interesting.
I'll just be
Lovely. I like the idea that the director said he was influenced by a domestic gothic film from the 60s called The Housemaid, which again focuses on class and middle class family and how they feel threatened by the arrival of a disruptive interloper in the form of household help. That idea of, like, you know, feeling quite vulnerable in your own home. And I like that because the Park family never feel vulnerable. They trust these people. They let them into their lives. They talk quite openly about their lives. The mum actually confides quite a lot in her new housekeeper and kind of reveals her struggles and her worries that she has. But also it's partly based on a real life case, which I've actually read about recently. I didn't think of it at the time, but there were 2 live-in maids in France who actually murdered their employers in a rich house so they could take over their life. That was their plan. That kind of
Sounds
desire.
Like Agatha Christie.
It does a little bit, doesn't it? That kind of desire, that greed, which I thought was quite interesting. The last little bit that I want to say, just because I found it interesting, if you're a Hitchcock fan, there are references to Hitchcock throughout. The motif of stairs is used quite often. People are often like caught on the stairs, or the stairs are used to move between different scenes in the house, obviously.
Do stairs go up or down?
Both.
Sorry, Karen.
Have to answer. Also voyeurism, so watching through windows. The glass fronted house means that often people are looking in or looking out quite a lot. And apparently, even though I didn't notice, there's a random Hitchcock collection in the Park home, which does seem very out of place, but it was put there for a reason. Last thing I want to say is that at the end of the film, there is a song in the credits called A Glass of Soju, which has actually been released as part of a soundtrack, and people really, really like it. But the original name of the song was called 564 Years. What do you think that might reference?
The length of time it takes to walk around the world.
It's a good guess.
4 miles an hour.
Wow, precise. But
That's
no.
the average walking pace, isn't it?
Okay, good, but no. It's actually how long it would take for the son of the family, who becomes the tutor for the Park family. It's how long it would take him to earn enough money to buy that house.
How many years?
564.
I don't think it's going to happen.
No, because he comments on, wow, having a house like that, or one day I'm going to buy that house, and it's that reality that he will never be able to do that.
That's the whole.
Because he's stuck.
But you can't escape poverty.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Are
That's
you
it
done
for
now?
me. Yeah, sorry, I just like my little bits of trivia.
Are you satisfied now? Okay, we'll give it a mark out of 5 now then.
Okay. I would give it 4 out of 5.
That's the lowest you've given so far.
It is.
So you think?
I don't know.
You think you stick to your guns?
But only because,
You're
and this is
giving
what I
George
said
Jones
yesterday
a-
when I saw it, I thought it was a really good film, but there's something about it being Best Picture at the Oscars, and I think that has done something. Like, I just didn't feel the impact like I thought I would. I went into it thinking it was more of a thriller, and then I was a little bit disappointed by maybe the lack of stuff in there. That's just me though.
Well, I think you've been incredibly hard. I think it's a brilliant story, cleverly told, cleverly presented. It's dark, funny, shocking, real. Like, its message is real. It carries weight. Anyway, I think it was excellent.
Okay, 4.5. We'll go with that.
What's your score? 4.
4.5.
I've down 4 now. So okay, right. All right, we're done on that one then.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's time for the last 2 questions now. So question 5, tough one this as well. What was Fraser's job in Frasier? Nods in your head, okay. And the last question, Sam Mendes won the 1999 Best Director Oscar for what film? Which is another straightforward one, if you've been paying attention. So, what was Fraser's job in Frasier? Sam Mendes won the 1999 Best Director Oscar for what film? Okay, so hang around, about 5 minutes you'll get the answers to those 6 questions. For now then, what's coming up this week?
I don't have any DVDs this week, so I'm just going to go straight to Netflix. First thing that's coming out is something called Unsolved Mysteries, and it's a revival of a TV show. I believe it's American. It's a true crime series, and that's starting on Wednesday the 1st of July. This is volume 1. I think I read there's going to be 2 series of this, and each episode focuses on a different crime that has never been solved. And I like that sort of thing.
Well, they're not, and so they'll remain unsolved.
Well, I don't know when this was filmed, but I'm assuming it was recent, so it's cases that haven't been solved. So you're not watching it to find out what happened. You're watching it just to see the investigation and how far it's come.
No closure. I'm not watching.
No, I know some people won't like that, but I like anything true crime, so I'm all for it. The other thing I found was Motherland, which is actually a British sitcom that they aired the pilot in 2016 on BBC, and then I think they released the series in 2017, and series 2 I think went straight to BBC iPlayer in 2019. But it's based around the trials of middle class motherhood, and it just looked quite funny. It stars Anna Maxwell Martin, who we would know from the Bletchley Circle, and she was in the recent David Copperfield film, and Diane Morgan, who we know from Afterlife. She plays Kath, the strange one in The Office, and I just thought that looked quite funny. A little bit of fresh air. And something that's coming to Netflix, it's not new by any means, but if you haven't seen it or you're just looking to watch it again, they're finally putting The Green Mile on Netflix, starring Tom Hanks, which is just a great film if you haven't seen it, following men on death row, particularly one man who shouldn't be there, and you're kind of rooting for him to not be there. So there's some good examples of stuff coming up on Netflix. Not much this week though, a little bit slim on the ground. I don't know if you've seen anything on TV at all.
What, coming up?
Yeah, just like adverts or anything.
No, just more football.
Great.
Okay, right, that's what's coming up next week. I think it's answers time. So here are the 6 questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
What's the name of Shrek's wife?
Fiona.
Is the right answer. What's the name of Sherlock's brother in Sherlock?
Right, I think it's Mycroft. Am I wrong?
No, you're right.
Okay, I thought it was.
From which film is the line "I see dead people"?
Sixth Sense.
The Sixth Sense, yes. And where was Inspector Morse set?
Is it Oxford?
It is Oxford.
Okay, I was torn.
What was Fraser's job in Frasier?
Radio host, broadcaster.
No, I'm not giving that to you.
Oh no, he's a psychologist, but he does it on radio.
So he's a radio psychiatrist.
Oh, psychiatrist.
Yes,
Okay.
he's medically.
Okay.
I'm not giving you that one.
Fine. Yeah, I forgot that part.
And finally, Sam Mendes won the 1999 Best Director Oscar for what film?
American Beauty.
Yes, you had to know that one.
Yeah, we talked about it 2 weeks ago.
Right. I think I wrote one good, one bad. Go on then, Jenny. One good from this week.
My good from this week would just be the finale of Killing Eve, because it tied up all the loose ends. I was satisfied. Done.
Okay, and your one bad?
We watched 24 Hours in A&E. Yeah, I do like a little bit of that, but I don't think there's any need to show me open fractures where bones sticking out of skin. I don't need to see that, so that's my bad for the week. Have you got anything?
I've got my one good is watching Parasite finally, because I heard so much about it and I really enjoyed it. And a return to form for me. My one bad comes from the same thing. Watching Parasite but not being able to eat whilst watching it because you have to read the subtitles and you can't look at your plate and read the subtitles. So
such a first world problem.
So that's my one bad.
Fair enough.
Right, I think we're done. Are we done?
Yeah.
Right, is it drinks
It's too
time
hot.
yet?
Probably.
Right.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
It's 5 o'clock somewhere, it certainly is. Alright, thank you very much, people. Hear you back next week.
Bye.